All right, my name is Connor Franklin, and this is my daily lesson plan for HCSV 451 for our project. My lesson is going to be going over the AIDS crisis in the 1980s for an 11th grade U.S. history class. It's going to take up a whole period, 50 minutes. The key idea behind it is that it is important for students to understand how STDs and STIs have had an impact on history, and I chose to do that by going over the story of the HIV and AIDS crisis. The HIV and AIDS crisis also had a significant impact on civil rights movements, especially for homosexuals in the 1980s, and it is important for students to be able to understand that and relate it to current issues to be better citizens in the future. So some of the learning targets and objectives are that students would be able to explain the impact that the AIDS crisis had on 1980s society, understand how public and media misconceptions can affect members of society, especially those in minority groups, and relate the AIDS crisis to current civil rights issues. So, as far as the actual procedures go, I would start off my lesson with a little 2-minute video clip I found, which was actually NBC's earliest report on AIDS. It's from 1982, and in it they go over what they believe to be accurate. They think it's a type of cancer. They're attributing it to primarily homosexuals, but they don't really directly indicate that. So that's just a little introduction, and there's a number of pieces of information in it that are factually incorrect. So I'll start the lesson off with that and then have students do a quick write to just kind of see where their knowledge is at about what they find is as factually incorrect in that video. From there, I will move into a short lecture where I go over further details of the HIV/AIDS crisis and its historical impact and its impact on civil rights. After that, I'll do a sort of simulation activity where I'll break the class into a couple groups. I'll have them be each student, will be trying to fill out a bingo card, but some of these students will have red pieces of paper while the rest will have white pieces of paper. The students are to assume that the red piece of paper students are infected with HIV and AIDS, and that if they receive an answer for their bingo card, things like, what sort of music do you like, or someone who brings lunch to school on most days, that if they receive an answer from someone with a red student, they will likely contract the virus, and the goal is to fill out the bingo card without contracting the virus. So this is meant to be comparable to how society saw homosexual individuals during the AIDS crisis, because they didn't really know that it was an STD, they didn't know that it was transmitted through blood, so they were essentially treating homosexual individuals as red herrings or something to avoid. So, continuing that, I would have the students do an activity for 15 minutes in which they go out and try and fill out this bingo card by interacting with each other. 2 individuals will be infected, one with a red card and one with a white piece of paper. No other students are to know who those individuals are, and those 2 individuals will be in charge of recording which students interact with them, and recording those students, therefore, as infected. At the end of the game, I will have a discussion in which I will ask the students who had the red card to try and explain to everyone else what their experience was like, how it felt for them to be kind of the outcast members of society who were looked down upon and avoided because people had the perception that they would have HIV, essentially. So the 2 original infected students will also reveal who they were and who else they infected during the game. I will then challenge the students to try and compare and contrast the experiences the 2 groups had, and to explain the parallels between the simulation and what actually occurred in society in the 1980s. So, And any assessment in this is informal. It's based on the discussion and me as the teacher perceiving whether the students are able to make the connection that I want them to make between the civil rights movements of the 1980s and the HIV/AIDS crisis at the same time. Materials-wise, it'll just be the video, the papers, and the bingo card, and that's essentially the only reference I'll need too. All right, so that is it. Thank you. Bye.